Howard Hughes Jr. was an American aviation and film tycoon during the 20th century. He should be considered a futurist because he advanced both the arts and sciences through meticulous observation and creativity. He saw the future with his name on it, and the public spotlight had been his oldest addiction. Hughes was born in Houston, Texas in 1905 and lived a comfortable lifestyle. His father, Howard Hughes Sr., was also an innovator in his lifetime. He had earned a name and fortune for his family when he invented the Hughes drill bit, which would change the oil drilling industry forever. Hughes' influence on history started in film after the death of his father. He was initially seen as an amateur destined to be devoured by Hollywood, but Hughes continued to prove critics wrong. His work on Hell's Angels dazzled moviegoers with extravagant scenes filled with action and romance. The world had never seen anything like it before, and they loved it. Above all, Hughes was an aviator. He had an obsessive personality and he was obsessed with aviation. He was a child at heart and he was fascinated by Charles Lindbergh's 1927 flight across the Atlantic. It launched a new era in aviation, one that had aircraft engineers focused on time and distance. His passion for aviation would evolve into something more than just a hobby. He was always talking to mechanics and experimenting with aircraft engines. His course seemed clear. He set out to create the fastest plane the world had ever seen, and that's just what he did with the H-1 Racer. The innovations in this plane allowed him to shatter the previous records by almost 50 miles per hour. After 2 years of engraving his name into aviation's record books, Hughes was ready for something bigger, something he fantasized about throughout his life. He was ready for a trip around the world. He traveled 15,000 miles in 3 days, 19 hours, and 17 minutes, only a summer after Amelia Earhart's mysterious disappearance. The trip pushed him in front of the world's spotlight. He attributed all of his success to the machines he managed to build and not his expertise as a pilot. His Lockheed, aptly named New York World's Fair 1939, was a marvel of technology, complete with an autopilot and an abundance of gauges and indicators never seen by the world before. This plane could practically fly itself. During World War II, Hughes was seen as a hero. He was a man that needed to direct his own films and one that needed to test his own planes. In 1943, he was offered a contract to supply the US Army with 101 state-of-the-art reconnaissance planes. The XF-11 could fly faster than any other pursuit plane in the world and had the potential to change air warfare forever. During World War II, he was also commissioned to build a flying boat for the military, made mostly of birch and spruce because of an aluminum shortage. Nicknamed the Spruce Goose, it was first test flown in 1947 and was the largest plane ever built. It had 8 engines, the world's first hydraulic system, and the world's first spiral staircase in an aircraft. In 1956, Hughes orders the first jets for his airline TWA. He orders 33 Boeing 707s and 30 Convair 880s, ushering the airline into the jet age. Hughes fought furiously and invested millions of his own capital to ensure their installment, even when financial complications arose. These jet airliners were proven fast and reliable. Utilizing pre-existing systems of flight, they had the ability to connect continents faster than ever before, effectively making the world a smaller place. People saw jets as the way of the future, and Hughes helped get them there. The Vietnam War allowed Hughes to apply himself to another growing technology, helicopters. Made famous in the Korean War for their medical evacuations, they were deeply needed in Vietnam to bypass forests and rivers. Hughes competed in a competition to win government contract for his helicopter prototype, but he was outbid and incurred losses totaling to approximately $90 million. Despite some of his failures, he succeeded in etching his name into his own niche of history. In 1965, the world's first communication satellite was launched into orbit by the Hughes Aircraft Company. His name was everywhere. The satellite was nicknamed Early Bird after the expression "early bird gets the worm." This was in direct competition with the USSR and others during the space race. 84-pound Early Bird hovered between 22 and 23,000 miles above the equator. Eventually, a range of Hughes satellites provided a global communication network, transmitting television signals and telephone calls across the world. 2 of these satellites can transmit 6,000 simultaneous two-way phone calls. Hughes Surveyor spacecraft were the first to make an unmanned landing on the moon. They transmitted thousands of photographs of the moon's surface and conducted chemical analysis of its soil, sending the information back to Earth. Hughes helped to pave the way for the first manned landing of the moon. Hughes' name was everywhere. US Navy F-14 Tomcat fighter jets were equipped with the Hughes weapon system, enabling the pilot to launch up to 6 missiles at once. The US Navy F-4 Phantoms had a Hughes fire-controlled TV screen, and Army and infantry helicopter units were now equipped with the Hughes heavy anti-tank TOW missile. Hughes had advanced the science of defense. NATO countries such as Switzerland, Japan, Belgium, and West Germany all depended on Hughes for an early warning security system. Information was relayed from a high-speed computer which could detect friendly and enemy aircraft, and could also relay simultaneous range, bearing, and height data to the users. All across the world, Hughes had an influence in people's lives. TV programs in New York and LA were carried across by Hughes cable systems. Manufacturers cut garments with Hughes computerized lasers, and hundreds of thousands of people wore wristwatches with Hughes modules inside. Today, Hughes' influence can still be seen around the world. His vision of a real estate development project currently exists northwest of Las Vegas. His town, named Summerlin after his grandmother, offers an exclusive lifestyle. It contains 9 golf courses and is connected by an arrangement of walking paths. Howard Hughes Jr. was an innovator, a pioneer, and a hero. He imagined the future and helped the world get there. He advanced both realms of art and science, and his accomplishments connected the world in new ways that we had never seen before.